All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Select Board meeting, Monday, December 4th, 2023, Coit Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, Mashpee, Mass. 02649, broadcast live with the local cable channel 8, stream live on the Town of Mashpee website. And it is 6:02 p.m. and I'd like to convene the joint meeting with the Affordable Housing Trust in open session. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. Affordable Housing Trust, discussion and approval of spending an additional $7,000 for the acquisition of 12 Cypress Circle. Still here.
Good evening, everyone. Evan Lehrer, Community Development Director. Back in 2019, I had worked with the property owner of 12 Cypress Circle to have her and her husband submit an application to the Community Preservation Committee for funding to acquire their property for the purposes of developing affordable housing. That article was approved by town meeting for funding in the token of $100,000. Subsequent to the town meeting vote, town council had been working with the property owner's attorney to effectuate the transfer of title to the Affordable Housing Trust, at which time some title issues were identified, notably that the current property owner's deceased sister, who left her the property, didn't specify in her will the conveyance subsequent to her death of the property to her, to she and her husband. So town council, had suggested a pathway forward for her to work through the probate court to clean up the chain of title. 4 or so years later, 3.5 years later, that work has been completed. There is a deed on record at the Registry of Deeds with a full title insurance policy securing the chain of title to the property. I've submitted all of that information to town council, who has reviewed it and affirmed to myself and the town manager's office that the risk to the town has been substantially diminished to the point whereas the conveyance can proceed. Since the beginning of the work for the property owner to unravel some of those title issues, obviously much time has passed. Costs were incurred by the property owner. She had contacted me recently because I followed up with her probably biannually since the identification of the title issues to understand where she was at in the process. She had asked me in one of those follow-up conversations if it would be possible, given the time and expense that has transpired since, if the trust would be amenable to increasing or participating along with the CPC more or less in the acquisition of the property for $107,000. The appraisal conducted at the time, is my understanding, the appraisal conducted at the time of the CPC application was for up to $110,000, and obviously that was back in 2019. So I'm here merely to provide you that history and to urge and recommend the trust consider the property owner's request for an additional $7,000 in funding so that the transfer of the property can be had to the Affordable Housing Trust and we can begin a procurement process to identify a potential developer for the site. And just as a final nugget of information, you may recall that prior to the town meeting where this acquisition was authorized, the town had submitted a request for interest to local developers, and we had received 2 requests from qualified developers, they being Housing Assistance Corporation and the other being Habitat for Humanity. So if the additional funding is authorized authorized. We would hope that we would put this in front of town council to effectuate the transfer, and then we could begin the procurement process to identify a developer. It's a relatively small site. It's in a Zone 2, so we're not looking at a substantial project here. This would be a 10-bedroom project, more or less, unless additional denitrification were to be had on site or further forms of nitrogen aggregation would be had. As of right, it's a 10-bedroom project. There are opportunities to increase that number of bedrooms. However, we would need to evaluate that further.
I have a question. Does this have to go back to CPC to approve the 7,000?
It is my understanding that it does not.
Oh, it doesn't.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Good evening, Evan. So we're getting this property at the 2019 price. Is that correct?
More or less. The property last appraised, to my knowledge, was in 2019, and it was appraised at $110,000.
Okay. That's a pretty good deal. Okay. What about, you mentioned some projects. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what types of projects you might see go on that property? You said it's not a small, it's a small lot. How small is it, and what kind of projects might go on that property?
This is an interesting lot in that it was created pursuant to a subdivision back in 1973 referred to as the Conomet Highlands subdivision. That created all of the streets around Fox Hill Road, Silverleaf Lane, the area in and around the Wampanoag Rod and Gun Club. And in 1973, the roads began being constructed, properties began being conveyed, and then the developer at the time seemingly went bankrupt and skipped town, and none of the infrastructure was installed in accordance with the requirements of the plan. So the planning board, over decades, has worked with property owners to kind of piecemeal it together. Now, with, I think, one exception of a very small strip between South Sandwich Road and Silverleaf Lane, the subdivision's almost 100% complete. With the two cul-de-sacs, this property has frontage on two streets, Fox Hill Road and Cypress Circle. Both of the cul-de-sacs that the property has frontage on are unimproved. So the lot today is quote-unquote unbuildable. The improvements need to be made to those streets to be eligible for building permits. 3 or 4 years ago, either just before or subsequent to the town meeting vote authorizing the transfer of this property, the planning board released this property from the covenant on the condition that it be sold to the town for the purposes of developing affordable housing. So that covenant release hasn't gone on record yet at the Registry of Deeds. It's always been held by town council to ensure that the property wasn't released from that covenant prior to the town taking it, because that improvement will need to be made. Now, the site in 1973 was identified on the subdivision plan as a green or recreation area. Often these were areas in a subdivision that weren't requirements, but were added as amenities for the neighborhood, such as a playground or a basketball court or a tennis court. And it had, because of the developer's seeming inability to complete the subdivision, that use had never been brought to fruition. And there's a provision in the subdivision control law that allows that to lapse and then become a lawful building lot. So this is a conforming lot. I can't remember the specific lot size, Greg, but because my memory serves, it's 10 bedrooms. It's probably in the token of 100,000 plus square feet. So more than 2 acres. And so I would envision this as a small project between, as of right today, it would be 10 bedrooms, either in a singular structure or in multiple units, if you think of habitat type scale. And their model is actually shifting more towards a multiple house on a lot situation just because of the cost of mobilization and their sweat equity program. They are looking for more houses per lot. So this, in that model, it could be a 3 or 4 house project with the requisite number of bedrooms to comply with Title V regulations.
Thank you.
So I'm guessing the answer is yes on this, but this is an allowed use for multiple units dwelling?
So if we were to be the buyer of the property, the trust through staff, or the staff through the trust, would produce procurement documents to identify a developer to develop the site through a Chapter 40B comprehensive permit. So this, to accomplish the density on the site that we are hoping to achieve, which is either multiple rental apartment situation or multiple houses, it would require certain waivers from the zoning bylaw, which the 40B process would allow.
No, I think it's a great idea, and I would love to see either it be rental or even more so, I'd love to see it as
An ownership project. Yes, indeed.
It's a great way to enter into the housing market.
And just as another fun fact, there are other Habitat homes actually in the same subdivision, and the town and select board in the past have participated in aggregating town-owned land area for aggregation purposes, because some of these lots are quite small and that they're only entitled 1 bedroom. This one has the benefit of being much larger, given that it's in the recreation area of the subdivision, but some of those other lots are 12,000 or 15,000 square feet, so aren't able to have more than 1 bedroom without nitrogen aggregation. So one of the opportunities for potentially expanding bedrooms would be through the same town meeting vote that authorized nitrogen aggregation for those other Habitat lots, but I would need to evaluate what remains from that town meeting vote with the Board of Health prior to determining if there is the potential for going to 12 bedrooms, for example.
I think it's a great idea. The only question on that is, will it be a separate individual wastewater treatment system out of each of them, or is it going to be a common system? We're all going to eventually have wastewater plants tie-in, so I'm just curious if you've given any thoughts.
So there's no, since we haven't identified a developer, I mean, the design options for the site are, I'd say, limited, but not guaranteed, I guess, given the existing conditions today. It's possible each house could have its own system and share a leaching field. I don't know. Obviously, we would want the procurement documents to incentivize the most advanced denitrification septic system that is possible until such time as there's the availability for a sewer connection.
David or Alan, you guys are remote, so it's kind of hard to. Would anyone like to chime in?
I guess we've discussed this in prior sessions in the Affordable Housing Committee, and I've discussed this with Evan over the years since 2019, and I think this is a good opportunity. I think, excuse me, I agree with Selectman O'Hara that this would be maybe preferable for a home ownership situation, but I think it would also be good for a rental opportunity as well, depending on what kind of waivers the ZBA would be inclined to give for that. I think either way would be a good addition to the town's affordable housing portfolio.
Thanks, Alan. David?
How you doing? Sorry about that. I'm open to the decision of the board, two convening boards, on the best path forward, because affordable housing is such a critical issue. Any action the Affordable Housing Trust takes, I'm supportive of, and open to how that shakes out.
All right. Thanks, David. Kayla, anybody?
Yes, I just, go ahead.
We were talking about...
You've got to tuck into the mic.
Talking about single-family dwellings. How many units would you be putting on? You said 10 to 12 bedrooms. So would the units be 2 to 3 bedrooms, most of them? Or less? Would it be on, let's each parcel being 25 to 30,000 square feet?
So there are some bedroom count, or I'd say requirements under Chapter 40B to have a certain number of 3 bedrooms per every site. So if there's 10, you'd likely have at least 1 3-bedroom, maybe, what's that, 3, 2, 4, 6, 8. 3 2-bedrooms and a 3-bedroom, something like that. Maybe more, maybe less, but it all depends how the design shakes out and what the site can sustain in terms of the size of a leaching facility.
Would they be units together, like two instead of individual single families? Would they be multiple dwellings together?
They could be, but ultimately the way we would draw procurement documents is to work with the Affordable Housing Committee and ultimately the trust, who would end up authorizing the issuance of any RFP, what the preferred design criteria would be. Obviously, a developer has a particular business model. They know how to build certain products, and they are generally making an effort to be as responsive to the criteria we've specified in the RFP, but depending on who the responders are, we could get a variable mix of building types. They could be duplexes, they could be single houses, it all depends. And if there's a preference, the trust would want to enumerate that in the procurement documents themselves.
Thank you.
But there's a great opportunity for a D-NICE system to come in and give the number of bedrooms more likely than not. So I think that might be the way to go. And then when the tie-in happens 10 years down the road, sounds like a good plan.
I have a clarification question. In 2019, this was approved based on the 10 bedrooms? Is that?
That was more or less what was discussed at the time, yes. And the 10 bedrooms is because it's in a zone 2. You're only allowed the 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet. So yes, it was more or less based on the Title V restrictions on the site. I think we had always contemplated the potential for increasing the density on the site, but not substantially, because the opportunities for that are so limited.
So if I understand correctly, the only thing that's changed between 2019 and now is that the person who owns it, because of the costs that she's incurred, is asking for the other $7,000.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
That is more or less accurate, yes.
Is there any time limit on that approval, 2019, the 10 units, the 10 bedrooms?
I do not believe that there is any time frame. You mean on the CPC authorization?
Yeah, like is there an expiration date for that, or is that?
I might look to Kathy. Is that okay? I don't believe there is. I do believe the CPC can exercise their discretion to call monies back if it's not being exercised. But this money remains available for the acquisition.
I'm just curious, since it's been 5 years. So.
Indeed.
And Evan, in our funds, we have $100,000 already set aside for that, earmarked for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so you're asking for $7,000 more, as Michaela said, to help cover the cost for this lady's title search and so forth.
Indeed,
Like
yes.
All right. Thank you.
Carol? Anybody else have any questions? There were already, a lot of questions were asked already, so I don't have any.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept this, as Evan has stated out here, $7,000 for the property.
Second. I have a motion, second. Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate Evan bringing the opportunity before us, as Tom suggested, having more affordable housing, having it tied in maybe at some point to the sewer system is a good thing too. So I think it's another great opportunity. Thank you.
I agree, and I'd like to add something. I'm impressed, Evan, with your, it's almost like it's all rehearsed, written down in front of you. Evan
Did a great job. Absolutely.
Many may be surprised, but I think about this all the time, John.
This is like 3 years going, and it's all still readily available. So I'm impressed. Very impressive.
Yeah, great presentation.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Alan? Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Unanimous.
Thank you. I know Ms. Morano will be very pleased.
That's awesome. So next up. Discussion and approval of an appraisal and possible acquisition of 46 Main Street.
Evan Lehrer again, for the record. 46 Main Street's been a relatively new opportunity that's come across my department within, say, the past 6 months or so. One of the trustees who owns the trust who owns the property, Jim Williams, the property itself, before I get into my relationship with Jim, the property itself has been subject to a relatively unique permitting history in the most recent decade or decade and a half, in that in years past there was there was previously an existing single-family dwelling that existed on the property. It was in very poor condition, and some years ago, they were ordered by the former building commissioner to demolish the house. And this is a 1 acre plus lot in our zoning district that requires 2 acres, so it is pre-existing, non-conforming. And the order to tear down the structure put the property owner in the position to have to remove his grandfathered protected structure prior to being in a position to raise it and replace it. And so at the time, with that understanding, he sought relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, who granted that relief, I believe in the form of a written finding as well as a variance. It may have been just a variance, but I did provide the whole record as I had it for your own perusal. And variances do have time limits on them, and he has sought extensions of those variances on more than one occasion. And a few years ago, Mr. Williams approached the Board of Appeals for another extension because it had been many, many years since he had acquired the property, and then many years since he had been ordered to demolish it and hadn't yet exercised the development rights on the site. And so his last appearance before the Board of Appeals, they granted another extension of his relief, but more or less said, it is time to either exercise your rights or perhaps sell the property if it is not the right time or opportunity for you to do. So understanding that whole history, I had sent a letter to Mr. Williams to introduce myself and to discuss his interest in potentially offering this house or this lot for sale to the Affordable Housing Trust for affordable housing purposes. And he was very excited about that request. He is a builder himself, and had always envisioned doing something interesting with the lot. And about 6 months ago, when we first began this conversation, he had done a lot of due diligence in an effort to understand if he would have the bandwidth and the potential to develop this site himself as affordable housing. He met with Mass Housing Partnership. He made calls with attorneys. He sat in my office numerous times asking questions. And ultimately, at the end of it, came to me and said, Evan, I just don't think it is the right time for me to be able to develop a 40B project on this site. I had mentioned to him the local initiative program, the LIP program. He had sought the resources, and ultimately he decided that he would like to approach the trust for the purposes of understanding your interest in acquiring the property, and if you're interested in acquiring the property, facilitating a negotiation with him to achieve that goal. He does have currently a building permit on the site for a 1-bedroom house that he sought really to protect his development interest in the site. And so that is an open permit. It will expire at some point, if not A, granted an extension, or B, if he doesn't commence work on the project. And so this is what I'm bringing to you tonight. It is on Main Street. It is not in a nitrogen-sensitive area like the Cypress Circle property is. It is not in a Zone 2. So the potential for the site is really only limited by the size of the septic system you can fit on it until such time as the sewage treatment plant is available for that purpose. So I would again look at this site, which again is not large. It's in excess of 1 acre, but again would fit the similar scale of the Cypress Circle I was just communicating to you before. We're not looking at a substantial project here for many tens of units or hundreds of units, certainly. So there has not been an appraisal conducted on this site by any public entity that I am aware of. I'm not aware of any that has been conducted by the trust who owns this property in recent years. So that's more or less what I know. Given that affordable housing opportunities for the town are limited and finite, I do try to identify opportunities when they seem feasible to bring to your attention, so that you you can discuss amongst yourselves whether or not that's an opportunity you'd like to take advantage of. So I felt that this was one such opportunity. We couldn't, rather, I would be remiss not to bring it to your attention and see if we can't work with Mr. Williams to facilitate something for the benefit of the Mashpee community.
So you're looking for us to approve an appraisal?
Yes, more or less. I'm wondering, so I can share with Jim. If you're interested in acquiring it, I suppose a motion to authorize an appraisal would certainly signal your interest.
Okay, sure.
On this piece of property, you're saying it's approximately,
In the mic, Richard.
you're saying this piece of property is approximately an acre in size?
A little bit more than an acre, Richard. I can't remember the exact acreage or square footage.
Can a duplex or a triplex be put on that property?
It could be, but kind of same answer to your initial question. We would want to prioritize in any procurement what types of units would be most amenable to the neighborhood and feasible for a developer. So it could be an attached unit structure. It could be detached.
Meaning that, you're looking to get as much affordable housing available to people as possible.
Yes, indeed.
So, to put a single-family dwelling on that property with 2 or 3 bedrooms, really, I don't see it being useful.
I think I often tout and discuss as infill opportunities cottage courts. Single-family units don't necessarily have to be incredibly spread out. They can be relatively dense and share common spaces with each other. It all depends when the civil guys and the architects get together to assess the existing conditions of the site, what may or may not be possible. So a cluster of smaller homes would certainly potentially be feasible on this site.
Or multiple duplexes.
Or multiple duplexes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Alan, do you have anything?
No, I think I would welcome another site about the same size as Cypress Circle for a home ownership kind of opportunity. I think that we don't have a lot of these that come along in Mashpee, and certainly we've been very pleased with what we've seen Habitat do. I think they have yet to be seen who actually would get the site, and will be based on an RFP and proposals, but I think it represents a good opportunity to do that. Or, again, rental housing would be fine as well, depending on who the eventual owner becomes of the site.
Thank you, Alan. David?
I'd like to, approve the appraisal myself. I think it lends opportunity for some sort of housing, what that looks like. I feel like we need additional information to see if it's, a single family with an ADU or explore what's possible. The only question I had, I think I stated at a previous meeting, was to ensure that there's no contaminants on the site where it was a previously developed site before taking possession of the property.
Thanks, David. Back over to Taylor.
Thank you. We know how badly we need affordable housing, so thank you for bringing this forward. One of my questions, and I think it's a clarification question. You mentioned that sites are finite. We need to be looking for those sites. Can you just help me understand what the process is for looking for those sites?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd say as looking for those sites is not necessarily something I do on a day-to-day basis, given the multitude of other projects we try to facilitate. So I'd say, be quiet, phone. We're not actively necessarily searching for parcels. With the pipeline, I often refer to the quote-unquote pipeline of projects that we're trying to facilitate. Those are generally town-owned properties that we are aware of because we hold title to them, and we know they're feasible because we have public entities who we can, like yourself, to discuss any desire to develop it for the site. With privately owned parcels, we don't always understand, A, the motivation of a property owner to sell it, or the feasibility of the site. So I'm just one of those offices in Town Hall where people often are calling my office with questions about their property. In the 12 Cypress Circle case, it was how to release her lot from the covenant. In Jim Williams' case, it was, I'm about to lose development rights, what do I do? And so this is often the case with any proposal I bring forth to any entity. Like with the Pickerel Cove acquisition, for example, that started with a discussion about development of that site. And so I am exercising my professional opinion when I bring these to you. And so to answer your question very simply, we aren't searching for these properties. I think it would be great if we had some capacity to perform that function. But when I'm bringing these properties to you, it is a recognition of existing conditions and of potential feasibility in consideration of what we need to accomplish. And I make a determination whether or not there is potential advantage to bringing those projects forth, like I am now.
I want to tell you, I think you're doing a great job. You're directing the homeowner, property owner, your best opinion and the path of least resistance to move forward with the best product available. I just think you're doing a great job.
I always like to just provide everyone with options, and sometimes one of those options provides a substantial public benefit. So when it provides a public benefit, I like to bring that forth to the appropriate entity, in this case, the Affordable Housing Trust.
You do it well. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
I think most of the residents that are listening or see how you work recognize that your capabilities are far beyond what I ever expected you to do.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Carol?
I'm also.
Kevin, I just, on this site, is there any downside for getting an appraisal moving forward? Do you see any downside to it, or is it, in your opinion, your expertise, that this is something we should go forward and should pursue?
I think there's clearly a development opportunity here without. I mean, there's a couple of pathways you could take. You could seek the potential for feasibility on the site. I just think given its scale, it's not critical. I think the first thing you need to understand is what's its value in consideration of the needs we have and the money we are authorized to spend. Does it make sense? Right. So in my opinion, no. I think it's the only course of action that you can take to further this project to determine its potential feasibility.
Thank you. I agree with Tom 100% and everything you said about Evan. I appreciate the fact that he brings his expertise to bear and that he brings us opportunities so we can vet them and go from there. So thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So I'm just going to chime in. Same thing, Evan. I really appreciate it. And I know we had that brief conversation about probably a week ago or a couple weeks ago, talking about the Affordable Housing Trust, kind of bringing it back to life a little bit. But I think having these projects, talking about it, if you will, pipeline, that's the same terminology that I use as far as, let's put up these pipeline and start working on it. It's not, because they're all going to be at different levels of success or, a development.
Right.
And it's a lot of these things that held off in zoning or clear titles and things like that. But I think if we do have this pipeline and we continue to work at it, look at it, I think it'd be a great thing for the town of Mashpee. I do have one question as far as process.
Yes.
So if we're looking for a motion to approval to move forward with an appraisal.
Correct.
Do we need to set a cost, or do you get appraisal quotes and then come back to us, or how does that process go? Do we just authorize an appraisal and whatever the cost is?
You can establish a price, or we can go out and perform the procurement and bring the figures back to you to approve. I might look to the town manager to add a little bit to what I'm assuming here.
I believe in the past it's just gone right to the appraisal.
So can we just approve an appraisal of up to a higher amount just in case to cover ourselves? Or, because I think we have to have some type of number in there with approval, no?
I don't think that's been done in the past.
Mr. Chairman?
It has not been done in the past.
It has.
It has?
Yes.
Well,
when we were negotiating 751 Main Street, we had to go for appraisal on that property, and they gave us a range that we would set for the appraisal to cost us. And what we did, as I asked Kathleen earlier, she said it was set at $4,000.
They had voted not to exceed.
Not, okay, that's what I was getting at, just look for the process, so,
You-
and it doesn't really matter, I mean, I don't care if we,
You can always
I can't expect it to be.
set
you
it.
know,
I would go a little higher than that just to be on the safe side, given the fact that numbers have obviously changed.
Right.
They haven't gone down, they've gone up. So if 4,000 was the last one, my recommendation would be not to exceed 5.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make that recommendation that we go ahead with an appraisal for 46 Main Street not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have first and second. Any discussion? That's great. All right, start, Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
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 And online, Alan?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. And I know, just while you're there still, I know we talked about our next, having another Affordable Housing Trust meeting, possibly January? Is that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think January would be great. One thing that, just kind of expanding on what John had mentioned, we had discussed recently, the trust's role in effectuating the town's affordable housing goals. And we're at the tail end of the update of the housing production plan, or at least that process, with the hopes of adopting it later this month for submission to the state. One of the early actions that we need to be considerate of is a strategic plan. Many people have discussed it for the Affordable Housing Trust, to put in some sort of, 5-year plan to effectuate the successful completion of the quote-unquote pipeline of projects. And I think for the town-controlled properties, it's relatively easy to schedule or predict out what actions would need to occur at every town meeting to drive these projects forward. So then you have an understand what your annual obligations are within town meeting cycles for what actions does the trust need to contemplate and vote on to bring those projects from ideation to construction and ultimately occupancy. That vision should leave some room for the opportunity question and the potential for building out a search repertoire or identification of opportunities that aren't necessarily responsive. It's more proactive. Because again, I'm generally always responding to some other inquiry. And so, yes, I would love for the trust to meet relatively soon to discuss such a draft proposal and to work with me on it over the next number of months so that we can have a really coordinated effort around the affordable housing at the outset of the updated housing production plan. So January would be great. February would be fine, but whatever you, Mr. Chair, think is best, please let me know, and I'll make sure that we have some sort of draft put together for your consideration. And then I think thereafter, in my mind, if we were to develop a strategic plan, the trust could meet quarterly, perhaps, to effectuate those goals.
Good idea.
I'll coordinate with you accordingly as far as your time schedule with the town manager to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn the joint meeting with the Affordable Housing Trust.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm assuming that was unanimous?
Aye. Yes.
Alan, go back to enjoying the beach.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, if you don't mind. So it was 2 minutes.
Take care.
All right, we get discussion and approval of the following minutes. Monday, November 13th, 2023. A regular session, and Monday, November 20th, 2023, regular and executive sessions.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. I'll start up. Kayla?
Yes.
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 David?
Okay.
Abstain. Okay. Did you get that, Kathleen? Abstain, okay. Let me see. Department of Public Works, Catherine Laurent, discussion and approval of the following award of contract calendar year 2024 disposal municipal solid waste. Gotta Do Contracting LLC. First up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As mentioned in the memo, our current disposal contract expires at the end of this month. I did receive pricing from Gotta Do, who we currently utilize for an extension of up to 2 years. The pricing is outlined in the memo. I'm recommending that the board extend the contract for a single year. That will give us opportunity to explore other options. As you had discussed at your last select board meeting, we are looking at trying to utilize the Upper Cape Regional Transfer Station for potential railing of MSW to facilities out of state. The current contractor for that facility, Cavosa, is proposing to start that this spring. When I spoke to him, he wanted to kind of get a year under his belt before he opened it up to, other customers like the town. And I know there are other towns on the Cape that have expressed an interest in utilizing the facility, which I think would give us a better long-term rate for disposal in the future.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, anybody on the board have any questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Collins? No?
A motion to award the contract calendar year 2024 disposal of municipal solid waste to Gotta Do Contracting LLC.
And
Second.
clarification, is it 2024 or is it 20?
I'm sorry, 2024.
24.
It is 24, okay. You said it right, you were right.
Calendar year, 24.
Calendar year,
Okay.
that's,
July.
okay.
Okay.
All right, so I have a first, do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
And a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any? Kayla?
Yes.
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Okay. All set. Unanimous. Award of the annual contracts for trash recycling, container services, Cavosa Disposal Corp., rental of portable toilets, Pina Sanitation. Actually, that's it too.
So these were bids that we received last year. They were a 2-year bid. This would be the second of the 2 years. The trash and recycling service, that's our container service at the various town buildings and properties. The rental of portable toilets, those are for our seasonal locations as well as special events.
And this is the second year.
Of the, right.
I recommend a motion to annual contracts be awarded for 2024 as follows. Trash recycling services, Cavosa Disposal, and rental of porta potty toilets, Pina Sanitation.
I'll second the motion.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I see on the Pina's Sound High Sanitation, you had 2 bids. With the Cavosa, there was only one that came in?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that unusual that we only had one?
Some of the larger companies are no longer servicing the Cape, and others, they just aren't interested. I think the last few bids, we've only received one.
Thank you.
Discussion? Not? Carol?
Yes.
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 David? Unanimous. Discussion and approval and acceptance of the plans for Old Brickyard Road in Ninigret Ave.
So these were road layouts that were accepted by the town back in 1962. And as part of our Route 151 project, as we were doing a title search, we could not find the recorded plans. So in consultation with town council, and we have had to do this for other roads within town, most recently Red Brook Road, he suggested we just prepare new plans, have them accepted, approved, ratified by you, and then record those. So I do have specific language for a motion from town council in your memo.
Yes.
You have that, Ken?
Yeah, I have. I recommend approval below. Motion to be, okay. Move that the select board approve and ratify its acceptance of the roadway layouts for Ninigret Avenue and Old Brickyard Road as accepted by a vote of the town meeting pursuant to Article 29 on the March 5th, 1962 annual town meeting warrant, as shown on the set of plans entitled Road Taking Plan, Ninigret Avenue in Mashpee, Massachusetts, and Road Taking Plan, Old Brickyard Road in Mashpee, Massachusetts, both dated November 9th, 2023, prepared by Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc., it being the intent of this vote to delineate as a matter of public record and the boundaries and measurements of the layout of the said town ways as previously accepted as they have been in continued existence and public use for the past 60 years.
Second.
That's quite a motion.
A long one, yeah.
All right, we have a first, second. Any discussion? Okay,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Unanimous. Storm wastewater update? Are we gonna?
One of the engineers from Ty and Bond, who was going to help with the presentation, was sick today, so they asked if we could continue it or postpone it until your first January meeting.
Well, I think you're all set, right?
Yes, that's
So
it for me.
while you're there, I was just kind of curious, I know it's not on the agenda, but how are you making out with hiring plows? And it's all over the news.
That's on my
You may be
updates.
getting an update
Okay, all
from the
right. I
town
don't want,
manager.
You expecting snow?
All I can say is, right.
it's all over the news, so I figured that, you know.
Yeah, it's not good news.
Yes, hope
I didn't
that we
think it
don't
was.
get snow this year.
Do a no snow dance.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Catherine.
thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I would suggest that we go to our public hearings because
Yep.
those were posted, and I know that that's kind of taking things out of order, and I don't like to keep department heads waiting, but
Okay.
I'm just concerned about the notice that we had for public hearings.
Pursuant to Chapter 138, subsection 16A of Massachusetts General Law, the Select Board, acting as the local authority, will hold a public hearing on the 2024 annual alcoholic beverage and entertainment license renewals for the town of Mashpee. Said hearing will be held Monday, December 4th, 2023, at 6:50 in the Wacoit Meeting Room at
Should
Mashpee
be
Town
one
Hall.
at 6:45.
Well, 6:45, but it's 6:50 now. 16 Great Neck Road, North Mashpee.
Thank you, Carol.
And we have our list.
So we got the package storage, which was Andy's Market, The Barn, Best Buy Beverages, Liberty Liquors, South Cape Wine and Spirits, and then package store wine and malts. We have Mashpee Country Store, Mashpee Mart, Mashpee Mini Mart. Oh, no.
Restaurant,
And is it Rapid Refill? Is that continued?
Rapid Refill, and then,
Rapid Refill and Rory's.
oh, Rory's.
Temporary closure, so. Oh, that is a transfer though. That's different.
And restaurants. Keep going.
And restaurants, all alcohol, Asia, Blue, Bobby Burns, Cafe Trevi, Cape Cod Coffee, Astia, Finally Dino's, Saga Hibachi, The Lanes, Magni Inc., for Cape Cod Coffee Evergreen Circle, 99 Restaurant, Sienna, Sopranos, Valley Grill, Quashnet Valley, Wildfire Pizza, LLC, Wicked, and Wicked is an approval contingent upon Health Department. Restaurants, Wine and Malt, which is Bangkok, Thai Cuisine, and Zoe's. Commercial Club, All Alcohol, New Seabury Country Club, Willow Bend Country Club. Former Brewery Pouring is Malt Only, Knockabout Beer Company. And a Farmer Distillery Pouring, Cape and Islands Distillers.
I move, oh, I'm sorry.
So,
No, I have it in the
you
motion.
got the note, okay.
Do you want to close the public hearing?
Well,
Or do you want to?
Anybody?
Here, Jim?
anybody?
Anybody here from the public would like to speak?
Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 David?
Yes.
All right.
I move that the Select Board vote to approve the annual alcoholic beverages and entertainment license renewals for calendar year 2024, with the exception to the licenses for Evaluated Crust LLC doing business as Wicked Pizza and Estia, which shall be issued contingent upon approval from the Board of Health Department.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion?
They're good
Kayla?
businesses.
Yes.
All good.
Tom?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
All right. Good with the whole thing, right?
Yep, that's it.
Good,
In
nice one.
accordance
Thank you.
with the Mass General Law, Section 10, subsection 27A, the Mashpee Select Board will conduct a public hearing on the application of Cape Cod Coffee, Inc., doing business as Cape Cod Coffee, 10 Evergreen Circle, Mashpee, Mass. 02649 for a Keno license. Said hearing will be held Monday, December 4th, 2023 at 6:50 in the Waquait Meeting Room, Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, Mashpee, Mass.
All right. Let me just see. Yeah, would you like to come up?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jan Aguilar, Cape Cod Coffee. I felt like I lived here for 3 years. I haven't been here in a while. It's good to see everybody.
So if you just, so you're looking at opening
a Keno at
Keno.
10 Evergreen, yeah.
Anybody in the board have any questions?
No?
Dave, do you have any questions?
No, none. It's fine.
Okay. Great. All right,
Anybody from the audience?
Huh?
Anybody from
is there anybody from the audience that,
the? No?
no? Okay.
I make a motion
Kinda
to
quiet.
close the public hearing?
Second.
First and second?
Yep.
Kayla?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right.
Now a motion to approve the license application for Cape Cod Coffee, 10 Evergreen Circle, Mashpee, Mass.
Second.
For Keno.
I have a first and a second. Michaela got a second. Any discussion? No? Kayla?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Have a great
That
evening.
was
It's
easy.
it's easy to vote yes when you deal with a good business, and it is a good business.
Okay.
All right.
Public comment.
That's it. We're already done there, huh?
You got,
Anybody for public comment?
no, you got Evan, you got to go back to Evan and.
Oh, we're gonna fall back.
The health agent.
Sorry. Discussion approval of 2024 seasonal population estimate. Oh, you were up there before. I should have just,
This is really the only annual obligation I ever have, so it's, what a pleasure. However, if anyone has a microphone to the state, every year this request for this estimate gets shorter and shorter. And that means the estimate gets less and less accurate because I don't have all of the building permits in consideration for a calendar year. So we got to tell the state, why don't you just wait till January 1st, please? But anywho, the estimate speaks for itself. It's actually been the slowest growth year since I've started back in 2018. I don't think for any substantial reason other than Southport is done and the phases of New Seabury's cottages have been complete. So you're seeing, I think, in the past calendar year, more or less what the development landscape will look like absent any zoning changes. So people are constructing, exercising, development rights for previously approved subdivisions that have grandfathered protections. The estimate is considerate of raise and replaces, so you're not seeing, if there's a building permit issued for a new dwelling, but it was just demolished, you're not seeing an additional dwelling for it. It accounts for the demolition and the replacement. I don't have my estimate in front of me, but I think it was 29 building permits or so issued in the past calendar year for a very modest growth in the population estimate for calendar year 2024, this peak July. So methodology is consistent with it as it has been in every year since I've presented this estimate to you.
Thank you, Evan. We need a vote to approve, or?
Now you have to vote to approve this
28.
figure.
Do you need a motion?
I don't.
Evan, are you looking for a vote to?
I believe that you need to vote to accept the population estimate for the purposes of setting your quota for liquor licenses in the coming calendar year. So I know Terry Cook would be very unhappy with me if I left here without having you vote on an estimate.
Okay, a motion to approve December 4th, 2023, the estimated temporary increased resident population of Mashpee as of July 10th, 2024 was 36,922.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? We're just kind of waiting for 1 second for Dave, but okay. Michaela?
Yes.
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 Carol? David?
Yes.
All right. Discussion and approval of participation in the Public Health Excellence Grant Program for Shared Services.
Good evening, everybody.
May I pass out? Good evening.
Can I pass out a flyer real quick?
Sure.
This is Katie O'Neill from the Barnstable County. So a little bit before I started here, about summer of 2022, my predecessor came in front of you to present the Public Health Excellence Grant that the Barnstable County was going for, that all the towns in the county are kind of working towards. It's been pending the actual agreement to be finalized through all the town councils, through each town, and everybody agree on a certain, the agreement, really. So we finally got it through all the town councils, and now the final draft is in front of you to go over. And Katie is here to talk more about what the grant is here, and if you have any questions for us.
Perfect. So you're going to give us like a little...
I'll give you a little brief overview.
There we go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
So, I don't know if the mic picked it up. I'm Katie O'Neill, Barnstable County Public Health Shared Services Program Manager. I'm really excited. I appreciate the time this evening listening to our little blurb. The county has been very fortunate to receive one of the Public Health Excellence Grants. We received a little over $489,000 per year. It's on a 3-year cycle, and it's renewable for up to 9 years. The entire collaborative right now is made up of all the towns on Cape except for Falmouth, Yarmouth, and Barnstable for the time being. I've only been with the county for a few months, so I'm still working on recruiting those other towns as we speak. The Public Health Excellence Grant is really designed to improve the effectiveness and the efficiencies of public health, and it's done by shared services, which the county is really great at doing. Massachusetts, as you know, is made up of 351 cities and towns, each which have their own autonomous board of health. Nothing will change with this grant. We are merely here to support those boards of health. Prior to COVID, there was a special commission on local and regional public health that did a study to really look into health departments. There's a really vast knowledge required to have a health department that most people don't know they do. And most health departments don't necessarily get the funding or the staffing or the training that they need to really successfully do all of those duties. The Cape is really lucky. We have really educated, highly trained, well-prepared health department staff and Board of Health members. But when COVID hit, it became really apparent that some of those off-Cape towns weren't as prepared. And what the state did is they actually provided funding, which they never do. And they did that through this grant. So the county's the one running it. We do all the work. The towns don't have to do anything in terms of fiscal responsibility. Really, the only requirements, if you look at the back of the sheet, you have to take part in our governance board meetings. So Zach is the member. If he couldn't attend, he could send a representative on his behalf for the voting. It's each town gets one vote. There's no weighted vote. It's just strictly one vote per town. They have to continue to participate in all the Mass Department of Public Health programs, needs assessments, and software, which you're already doing anyway. So there's no real change to that. And then the training and resource standards. So this grant, there's a separate half of it that will have a training hub. And all the staff members that take part in this grant will actually have the opportunity to go through the training hub and be retrained or newly trained. So inspections are being done consistently across the board. So it's another resource that's not actually included in this grant, but it's another benefit of it. The main recommendation from the special commission that did that major study was to share services. That was their huge thing. So one aspect that we're doing already is we're hiring shared inspectors. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding in the beginning of this grant that shared services meant that your staff would be in other towns. That's not the case. We're not sending Zach anywhere. He's here. You got a great one. You're keeping him. Don't worry. We would be hiring new inspectors to come in and support the existing staff that are already there. Other programs would be pooling resources. Sometimes you need a random piece of equipment that you use once a year that there's no need to purchase for this one-time thing. We can share it. This grant would cover that. It covers expertise. If there's any other funding or programming, this grant would cover that. We can really accomplish more together than we can individually. So this grant really gives the opportunity to kind of come together, do some program, increase public health, increase health equity. Public health doesn't stop at our borders, so we really try to support it Cape-wide, and we are here to help best we can. To date, 320 of the 351 towns have already signed on to take part in this grant, which is really nice to see. Public health tends to be polarized, so you don't typically see numbers that are that close in agreement, which says a lot about the program. As I said, there's very little requirements for the town with a pretty good benefit. This first year, we'll start off on making sure that all staff members have the appropriate credentials that they need, and then we'll really be beefing up programming over the next few years. Happy to answer questions. I know that was a really brief overview.
So what this will help Zach, if he has a week of tremendous amount of inspections to do, he can call on you and you can have someone sent down to help?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Zach wants to take a vacation, he can take a vacation and not have to worry.
Oh, I don't know. Don't go so far. Mr. Collins.
I would suggest that the board consider making the health agent the representative, or the health agent's designee. I think that should be, if you were so inclined, to be right in your motion so that it's crystal clear that he is the representative for the town. That would be my suggestion.
Yes.
Can I have we might as well take care of that right now.
So moved.
So it would be Zach as
or
designee.
His designee.
Designee. To be, yes.
That was a motion?
Second.
Okay, first, wow. Speakers are like turned up or something. Any discussion on hearing it?
I just want to say it's an exciting opportunity to be able to take advantage of the expertise and the services of the county. I mean, it's a no-win. I mean, it's a win-win.
I will tell you that, I think it's a good idea, because I often wonder, you know, at the board, when you're at the meetings, the votes are taking place, and it's represented by the delegate at the meetings, and he votes on behalf of the town. But yet, I don't know that there's ever been a discussion with the town before they sat down at the meeting, and that it threw me. I was a delegate for years, but the decision was asked to be made at that time, and I was speaking on behalf of the town, and I don't think that it was the right process. I thought it should have been time where we would be able to come back, meet with our board members, and have a conversation and see if they were all in agree, and that person with the voice would be the voice of all of the board. And I don't know if that existed today or does not, but I felt awkward at times making a decision that something had to move forward, but I never had the opportunity to speak to my board. And I thought that was something that would be more in what you're discussing, is come here and have a discussion and then let the board bring it up, and not without anybody's input. That's all. I think it's nice to have you here.
Health services provided as a team. That's awesome.
That's great.
So that's discussion. Michaela?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
David?
Fantastic. I really
Number yes.
appreciate all your time this evening.
So, and as far as, and that was to give you, Zach the authority for the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll still vote on that.
Is there any reason why we would not fully endorse? You gotta ask a silly question.
I think there was some misunderstanding about the staffing, truthfully. That was some of the town's concerns, that I promise Zach is not going anywhere. You're not sharing, you're not sharing your staff. We're providing new staff to share.
I got your back, Zach. It's just an extra question to make sure.
I had done the same thing with the city of Fall River, Seekonk, and Swansea. We did this PHE grant there, and we had now they're considered a tri-town with the health departments. And then when I came here, Barnstable County has always been a great facility to work with. I've been working with Barnstable County for almost 13 years now. And I remember before they even became the county of health, public health for the Cape, before they got recognized. And so the whole department is fantastic. Already we've been using this grant, kind of. We have tablets with inspections, two inspections on it. Down in our office, we have a translator with 100 different languages?
300 different dialects.
Yeah, so if people come to our desk, we can translate with them. This is through the grant. And we're going to get inspectors. We already set up a desk in our office with a computer, so when they come, they have a spot.
Great.
It's also open for the public to come use and look at their own file, but it's got a background.
So, but I believe we also need to make a motion to participate, right?
Yes.
So can I hear a motion to approval to participate in the Public Health Excellence Grant Program?
So moved.
Second.
All right, first, second. Any discussion? Carol?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Very good.
And just for clarity, he is the rep that you've
Rapid
designated.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I just want
Or
that
designate.
clarified.
Yes.
Yes.
So we just need this.
That was the first motion.
Right.
You'll sign it?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate your time this evening.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
All right, public comment. Do we,
She's been sitting here.
oh, is she really?
Yeah.
With interviews and discussion?
Under new business. Under new business.
Interviews.
Yeah, interviews and discussion.
Yeah.
Possible approval of the following appointments. Mashpee Wakeby Lake Management Committee, good call, Carol.
Yes. She's sitting in the back.
Allison Bernhardt,
Yeah. Thank you.
good call.
Am I chair just supposed to state my case of why I want to be on the
Yeah,
committee?
just a quick.
I live on the lake. I live on the southwest side of Wakeby, Mashpee.
Okay.
Just a very concerned citizen. I live on it. I've watched it, excuse me, the 5 years that I've lived on it, 4 out of the 5 years it's been closed for cyanobacteria. I would like that the health of the lake to improve and to spread awareness on it. And I feel like if we can get representatives from all quadrants of the lake, we can help spread the word. And I know the committee's mostly southeast in the Lakewood neighborhood, and just like to have somebody on our side and then try to recruit somebody from the Wakeby side. So, you know, I'm a resident and I have time on my hands to
Well, I think that's great.
to help if I can.
Appreciate your interest, and who better than someone that lives right there, right? So, I have no questions on the application. Does anybody have any?
You have
No.
Yeah, all the boxes are checked on your application.
Exactly. And highly rated by everybody who interviewed you, so clearly prepared.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, first and second. Carol?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep,
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for
Have a
waiting.
good night.
Yeah.
All right. Public comment. Mr. Dombrowski. Come on up.
We're going to start the time.
Okay, I want to just update you a little bit on some of the work I've been doing on our real estate taxes. I've been examining them. I've been talking to you guys about this for going on 9 months now. You know, song stays the same, just some harder data. Again, the thesis here is our assessment process is yielding, I feel, inappropriate results that disadvantage the lower or modestly priced properties that most of our residents occupy. It's kind of, I thought it was kind of ironic listening to you guys at the classification meeting, because you were, you know, concerned about this issue, and yet you preside over a process that hoses these people. So let's talk about Mr. Collins has all this data. The one I really documented, I got the tax maps out there. It was probably some of my better work. But anyway, if you're interested, get it from him. If you want me to take you through it, let me know. I'll do it. Okay, so basically at a micro level, I took a look at one of the maps we got from the vendors, and I did a geographic sample, and it had 3 of these, quote unquote, these neighborhoods. Okay, 2 of them kind of behaved the same. One of them, that was the outlier, had it was 20% larger by square foot on average and 50% higher assessed valuations, and they all had water views. That group, as a group, grew from 2020 to 2023, 50% of the rate of the smaller homes. I mean, that makes no sense. The more desirable, larger homes growing at half the rate. Doesn't even pass the smell test. Okay, this manifests itself at the macro level, because what I did then is I took the assessor's database and I ran this from 2019 to 2023. And I stratified it by assessed values in 2023. And I did it by groups, but I kind of cut it off at 1.75 million. That's kind of where it kind of made a logical break. The guys above 1.75 million grew at 51% from 19 to 23. Guys below grew, what did I say, 51? The guys below 1.75 grew at 51%. The guys above grew at 41%. So that's 10 points on 40. That's a lot. That's 20% differential in the growth rate. Again, doesn't pass the smell test. And now this is the best one. I really like this one. Okay, I took a look at individual taxpayers. I mean, this is where it really drives the point home. Okay, so yeah, I know. Okay, you know, this is part of the problem. You can't. This is serious stuff. You guys express a desire that you're focused on this stuff, and then you don't even give me like an extra 15 seconds. Again,
Go ahead. You got 15 seconds.
Okay. So the last thing I took a look at individual taxpayers. I pulled their tax bills. I looked at the lowest price guy and the highest price guy, and I did it from 22 to 23. Okay, in that period of time, according to this little blue book here, the amount of funds raised by taxes increased at about 4%. The guy on the bottom, his taxes grew by 7%. The guy at the top, he got a tax cut. His taxes went down by 5%. How is that fair? I just don't get it. So, yeah, I think the process is faulty. And you guys had, a couple weeks ago, you had the assessor and you had the chairman of the Board of Assessors here. Would have been a great time to, you had all the players in the room. Would have been a great time to ask a few questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. McKelvey.
Good evening, everyone, and happy holidays to you. Just a couple of things tonight. As I said here earlier in the meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust meeting, and listening to Evan, I'm reminded of the excellent staff and people that work in this building, who are dedicated to their job, who are professionals, and who are experts in their fields. Lots of times we want to armchair quarterback people. And the reality is we got the people that know what their issues are and know how to handle those issues. And we should be listening to those people as they direct us in our future, regardless of what that is, whether that's our financial situation, whether that's our wastewater situation, or anything else that has to do with the town. We need to listen to the expertise of our people. Second note, I'd like to say that I really appreciate Catherine and her work that she's done on the transfer station. We have one of the best transfer stations around, bar none. I hear it all the time from people, and they compliment the town on that. We've worked hard to keep the transfer station the way that it is. I know we pay a lot for a transfer station sticker, but we get a lot for it as well, so I'm really grateful for that. And lastly, I'd like to say how much I appreciate the integrity of Rodney Collins. I've been working with Rodney Collins now for several years on a business level, from a finance committee basis, and on a personal level. And I can tell you, I've not always agreed with Rodney. He could probably say the same for me. But he's always been honest and straight shooting. I've never had a problem with his integrity. I've never caught him in a lie. I've never caught him in the mistruth, because the man knows how to tell the truth and is honest. And when people come into this building wasting the taxpayer dime on frivolous accusations, it bothers me, because they're attacking people who have good intentions, and not only have good intentions, but have the integrity to stand up to it. We need to be people that come together. If you got a problem with someone in this town, pick up the phone and call them and talk to them. That can be easily settled. Just pick up the phone and have a conversation and go from there. If people would do more of that, the world would be a lot better place. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKelvey. All right, additional topics, liaison reports.
I just have one briefly. Both IMA working groups will be meeting on December 13th. So for both Papaneset and Wacoit Bay. So I will bring you back more after that meeting, and hopefully a document.
Great. And parade is what, Saturday, correct?
Yes. December 9th, 5:30.
Perfect.
And the select board are invited, and it should be a good time.
Everybody hear that? 5:30, Saturday.
5:30. Thank you.
Any other liaison?
Yes, we had a great turnout for the lighting of the Christmas tree in the community park.
A lot of fun.
John joined me, and Tom was there, and we had a great turnout. It was 50 degrees, no rain. Kids had a ball.
Kids love Santa.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of smiley faces. Any water quality updates? Okay. Town manager updates.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. To get to the question that you had earlier, we are in desperate need of snowplow contractors, and if we don't pick some up, then there will be delays if we have major storms. I'm just letting the board know now that unless the situation changes, there will be delays getting to certain areas.
So our phones will be ringing on
It's
the
just
hook.
reality. Your phones will be ringing. We will do the best we can within our available resources, and we will obviously be paying the overtime for the drivers on staff to be out there in a timely fashion. But at this point, we are desperately short of the staff that we typically have, and we're going to do, again, the best we can, but I'm just giving you fair warning. If we have a major storm, we are not getting to parking lots or to roads like we typically have in the past. And it's not because we don't want to, it's just the staffing does not exist. The annual Chamber of Commerce parade is this Saturday, December 9th, with the rain date of Sunday, December 10th. Participants will be meeting at 5, and the parade begins at 5:30. As the board authorized, town offices will be closed to the public on Friday, December 15th for the annual organization day. I'm making that announcement more so for the public than for the board. You did approve that. You voted on that already. The annual Homeless for the Holidays fundraising drive by the Mashpee firefighters, which is a fantastic cause, is going on this week at the Mashpee Rotary, December 6th through the 10th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, December 6th through the 10th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Also, Toys for Tots Stuff a Bus Challenge by Mashpee PD is ongoing. The budget meeting schedule is completed, and the meetings are on Monday, December 11th, Tuesday, December 12th, and Thursday, December 14th. These are operational meetings. These are not public meetings. These are operational meetings. I invite the liaison from the board and possibly one other. I can't have a quorum there because it's not a public meeting. But I would respectfully request that any board member that wishes to attend that is not a liaison to coordinate that through the chair or through my office to make sure that we don't have a quorum, which would obviously be an illegal meeting. I also want to just pass out the schedule. I don't know if you've done that yet. Okay, so you've got it in your books, so you should be all set there. I also wanted to make the board aware that the DPW director, the week of the 27th November, obviously, there was a storm that caused significant erosion to the dunes at South Cape Beach. Access to the beach was available, but they were estimating a minimum of 1,000 tons of sand would be needed for restoration. So there are some photos that I'd like to pass along to the board. You could just take a look at it to understand the significant damage that we experienced. And last but not least, I did receive just today, even though it's dated November 30th, I just received it today, a notice from the Department of Environmental Protection relative to the extension of the date for best available nitrogen reducing technology in septic systems serving new construction in designated natural resource nitrogen sensitive areas, and that is being currently distributed. And it would have been in your packet, but I didn't have it until today. Just make sure the press has a copy of it. And I'll just pass these photos along, and that's all I have.
And I don't even remember that storm to be, I didn't think it was all that much, but
Look at the pictures.
Look at the pictures.
a little storm, like, I guess I call it a little storm, and
You can give that
Well,
to
it
her.
was like a northeaster. You
Yeah.
remember? It was. Wow.
I don't know what way.
Well, the fence stayed.
You know, I've been down. So.
I don't know what the answer is.
So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
David, is that a yay or a nay? Have a good night.
You too.